As an outsider looking in, I was always surprised by the amount of love the Animal Crossing series gets, especially seeing the commotion with the announcement of New Horizons, as my first attempt giving the series a try was severely underwhelming. The game looked relaxing, interacting with cute characters as you outfit your little home, with no real wrong way to play it as long as you're making progress with your routine. The perfect game to play in tandem with a podcast or a long YouTube video. And it seemed like something up my alley. And from what I remember, my experience with New Leaf felt dull. So this is where my ignorance creeps in. The game, I assume, only works if you like the villagers you have and the gameplay loop is therapeutic in some way. Unfortunately, I don't care for collecting fish, fossils, and bugs, and I can't even recall enjoying the interior decorating or even what villagers I had at the time. That's how forgettable the experience was, and I wasn't able to take advantage of the social aspect of showing my home to others, because no one physically around me was interested in the series. So, in short, I don't care much for the collecting, and I can't remember anything else besides disappointment. However, I do have an open mind, and I'm happy to try something out again, even if the game has mechanics I'm not too fond of. And where New Horizons intrigues me the most is how modular the island is this time around, and I'm willing to do some monotonous collecting to get to that endpoint. Also, the fact that I can actually put things outside my house, the place that I'm looking at the most, is the biggest draw. And daily rewards from the Nook Miles app adds a neat reward system to hopefully break up the monotony I felt in the previous installment. And since I have this channel, I can pretend you guys are my friends who care enough about what I do in this virtual world. Because let's be honest, you, the person watching this right now, we are friends. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And the best way to verify our friendship is to buy my... So here's what I've done. After playing New Horizons for 3 days and still unconvinced, I set upon myself recording diary entries for the next 30 days of me playing this game, documenting general thoughts and sprinkling in what I've done each day, hoping to find the exact moment I was successfully convinced of liking this game. This is assuming, of course, that this ever happens. Now let me explain my setup. Having split the price of purchasing the game, I'm a resident on an island that my sister owns on her Switch, so I'll be playing from a non-owner perspective, and I'll be playing the game as intended, so no time traveling or exploits. If I'm complaining or questioning about something and there's a simple answer to this, please let me know. In saying all that, grab your Switch and listen to this in the background, and let's begin God Gives Animal Crossing a Chance for 30 days. Hope you enjoy it. Having already played a few days of the game without footage, let me describe to you my initial impressions. The game looks really charming, and is a great step up from what I remember in New Leaf. The Nook Miles feature is great, earning currency just by doing your usual routine, but these points are often used on pretty silly things. The quick select wheel upgrade being one of them. A quality of life change like that should be available from the start. And it's not like the Pro Drawing app where it is a great feature, but not everyone is going to take advantage of it because it has no useful use besides cosmetics. The tool wheel is something everyone should be using for convenience. And as someone who bought all the tools as soon as I could before I got the Nook Miles Plus thing, it was a bit frustrating to find that out. But hey, overall, pleasantly surprised so far. The museum just opened up, and I'm a big fan of how the owl guy looks. I gave him all the fossils I had on me, but I forgot to look through the museum after the donations. But I'll be sure to check it out tomorrow. I collect more wood and craft some fences to surround my home. I want my place to look symmetrical, but with how my house is situated beside a slope, the fence has an awkward looking gap. I'm annoyed, but apparently there's a feature to move your home eventually, but I'm looking forward to it. I talked to Muffy and Genji. I don't really care for them, but I did meet a penguin the other day, and I adore him quite a bit. I invited him over, but I have yet to see him. Hopefully the slow burn pays off. Tom Nook announces that there is nothing new to announce. I play for the miles like it's homework and pursue towards paying off my loan. I wish there were more options to decorate my home, because paying off that loan with nothing to decorate it with is like buying a console with no games on it. Everything I get from balloons and bottles are things I don't find appealing, but I'm sure there will be better things eventually. Maybe the game should start a player off with a choice of different starter packs. Just a handful of recipes with matching aesthetics that'll keep you busy early on would have been neat. Still don't care for the other residents. I just want the penguin to come around already. Anyway, the owl's dialogue is pretty cute for the first time, but it gets kinda tedious if I visit him several times in a session. I assume you're supposed to collect a bunch of stuff and only visit him once, but with the current inventory slots, that can get kinda bothersome. I also attended the museum's opening. It was pretty cute. Hopefully the next day shakes up a few things. Nook says there's nothing new again. I discussed with my sister what was happening on her end, and then she mentioned she needed 30 iron in order to progress the island. With that in mind, and my island being near absent of rock for some reason, I decided to use my Nook mouse to go to another island for the sake of iron farming. Only got 6. 23 more to go, I suppose. I met with a frog. I didn't care for her, but I asked them to come over anyway. Brought some coconut and pine trees back home, and met with a camel for the first time as well. She gave me a road for flooring for my house. It's alright, I guess. It's better than whatever I have right now. I then decided I'm gonna make a wall of pine trees on the island because there's nothing better for me to do. Starting to feel the indifference creeping in, but at least the need for ore is a goal that's keeping me occupied. Iron is often found in rocks, so when I found out that my sister has been destroying rocks on the island since they looked bothersome, and that only one rock respawns on the island per day, I got a bit peeved. Nonetheless, I gathered iron from my island and spent Nook miles to farm more iron. I got enough and mailed it to my sibling to upgrade the island's facilities. Talked to the rabbit and sheep, and I think I hate them. Not really, I don't. I just hate that they're not somebody cooler. Hopefully it gets more fun after this. Persona 5 The Royale just released yesterday, and that game is gonna occupy my mind for a bit. And thus, I only played 30 minutes today despite the new things that appeared on the island. Like that rabbit that talks like Bill Cosby. This is the first day I didn't bother with the daily miles, but I did do the regular fossil digging and bought new stuff for my house. My first time playing the game with the sun down and met with Blathers, realizing he wasn't snoozing. I completely forgot that owls were nocturnal, so this was a really nice touch. Talked to Genji, didn't bother with Buffy. I give my sister some clay and fences to get the bridge done. Looking forward to the new people coming in. The bridge has been built and 3 new residents are moving in. They'll probably come in tomorrow, I think. I recently saw Yahtzee's New Leaf review, and he hits the addictive quality of the series quite well. It's the idea of tomorrow, and that there's always something to do tomorrow. Which I do agree keeps me coming back for more, but I can't see myself playing it for too long if this is the only thing bringing me back. Which is fine for now. Limitations breathe creativity, and I'm doing my best to make a nice looking place with the current tools I have. Cluttered with trees, I rearrange my outside space and take out the last few weeds on the island. Also, not a fan of these egg items. They look awful. The fact that these eggs also mess with the usual collection of items is kinda bothersome. Hopefully the game gets better tomorrow. The most frustrating thing about being a resident is that I can't contribute to the island's development in any direct way. I can invite residents, but I can't interact with the buildings the same way that the owner can. I don't even have access to DIY recipes to build the items needed to bring residents in. I thought having to wait the next day would be my biggest problem, but turns out I quite like the anticipation, but my inability to participate is the largest issue. Why is it like this? Is there something I'm missing? Why isn't there an option to share ownership with other players? Why didn't the developers allow users to have their own island? In a game all about expressing yourself and customizing the island, why did you gimp the creativity of other players that aren't the island's owner? I'm not even sure if Nintendo has done this deliberately or is just unaware of what people want. Also, I found out that if I wanted to have my own island to start from scratch, I can't just buy a new cartridge, since the save file is stored on the Switch. So I have to buy an entirely new Switch to start my own save file. I guess Nintendo has never heard of the cloud before, so be sure to not break your Switch until a yet-to-be-released service appears. Christ almighty, I'm trying my best to give this game every chance I got. But this restriction of features is frustratingly vapid as a resident. But whatever. I'll compromise, and if there's anything I have to do that requires the island owner to do it, I'll make the switch to my sibling's character and do what I gotta do. Anyway, met a cool bird on the beach. He's got a neat design, I like him. I spoke to Veronica the other day about Animal Crossing, and so far, she has clocked in 90 hours into the game. She was also someone new to the series, and she said it takes quite a while to get into, which is to be expected. But when I found out that she was a time traveler alongside using duplication glitches, it made sense how she was able to do so much in that time frame. If she bought this game on release, that means on average, she played 6 hours a day. If it's considered slow, even for someone cheating the system, this brings into question if the game is designed well enough to keep a person interested through the intended path. If several people had to resort to cheating and exploits, is there fundamentally something wrong with the first few days or weeks of Animal Crossing just to get to the fun bit? Though the fun bit is of course subjective, the slow pacing is described as relaxing to others, and I can understand that. So, whatever. I guess it just depends on what type of person you are. New residents have moved in, but I didn't tend to the island today. Instead, I streamed Animal Crossing with some people. It was pretty fun. Interacting with others, seeing each other's island, and seeing what villages they have was neat. Turns out there's minigames too, and I hope Animal Crossing adds more stuff like this, cause you know, interactivity is fun. Only one complaint this time. When somebody arrives, you have to watch a little pop-up animation of them arriving. Why is this a thing? Why can't I just have some small text pop up in the corner instead of something interrupting my session? But overall, I had a good time. The social aspects of this game is fun, albeit bare. And I can see this segment of the game improving greatly in future updates, like more mini-games or ways to interact with your friends. Time to go back to the usual routine tomorrow. New neighbors arrived, a panda named Pinky and Boomer the penguin. They came in yesterday. I've warmed up to Genji now since he's now touting a do-rag, and Muffy, I still don't care for. I want more villagers, so I guess I'll start working towards that goal. The sailor bird arrived again, and the fact that he says the same thing is unfortunate. Especially since it takes quite a while for him to finish what he's saying. We know the drill, get to the point. I also changed up my room a bit. Hopefully tomorrow is more fun. I'm actually struggling to find new things to say at this point. The game has felt static for the past few days, and my personal investment is at an all-time low. The only thing echoing in my head when I play this game is that one episode of QY. The one where Sandy explains that the reason why people are drawn to clickbait is because of the anticipation you feel, rather than the result itself. What island will this ticket give me? What present does that balloon hold? And what villager will come in next? Unfortunately, this anticipation has been tainted by the presence of eggs. So, the sooner Bunny Day comes and ends, the better. Also, the frog came in today. I hate her. I really hate her. On the flip side though, Boomer is my favorite villager. He's the only saving grace for me at this point. Some interesting developments today. Nook is upgrading his office, which means a step closer to customization. If I later find out that residents can't terraform, then I may as well be staring at the wall for the last few days. Christ, that would suck. Holy hell, that would suck. Regardless, I'm eager to get to that point. I also visited a photo area thing, not really my cup of tea, and I also spent time fixing up my place with a new fence and cleaning out my storage. It's annoying that I can only put away items one by one. I can donate or sell several things in one go, but why can't I do that with storage when putting things in or out of it? I also realized I never got around to buying turnips on Sunday. That would probably help me with the whole loan situation. Man, it's only been 12 days and I already feel burnt out. Nook's tent has been upgraded and seeing all this new stuff is fairly exciting. It only took about 2 weeks to get here, but, you know, better late than never. Just ignore the fact that I couldn't contribute to the progress of the island in any direct way. Isabelle is finally here, and immediately, I can understand why a lot of people love her. Her presence definitely makes the place a lot more cozy, and with her comes new features. I'm surprised that I can complain about residents and change the flag. Good to know I have some sort of power after all. However, it looks like the island's progression is still tied to the owner. What joy. I can finally relocate my house too, though it'll cost me 30,000 bells. Not gonna do that just yet. Need to get terraforming unlocked until I do my proper move. I also want to point out, I'm tired of the dialogue boxes that I have to match through. That dodo is the worst offender. Even when making it faster with the B button, it's still kinda bothersome. It makes something like Seek Seek Lest super convenient in comparison. Looking forward to the next day though. Hopefully my enjoyment goes beyond mild amusement. Another day, another hour of Animal Crossing. Sisyphus would be proud. Isabelle's now addressing us, which is cute, but there's nothing new on the island. I was hoping the items in Tom Nook's shop would rotate, but it looks like fences are the only things that change. That kinda sucks. Isabelle also gave me a recipe for something. I hope this is a daily thing, since Bunny Day bottles have ruined my current chances of getting anything cool from the beach. I also noticed that the music has changed as well. It's fairly nice. My grind towards paying off my loan continues, alongside redecorating my house. But yeah, that's it. Not much to say today. I'm sure this game will get interesting at some point, but not today. I streamed myself playing the game on my Discord server with some members. I got to visit some of their islands, and it brought to light a couple of issues. The social aspect of the game is a lot more limited than I thought it was. There's not much you can do besides walk around and look at people's islands and take pictures. And mechanically speaking, the only difference is what items are in store, the turnip prices, and what NPC is visiting them on that day. This might come down to the fundamental problem that I, for the most part, just don't really care for other people's creations. Even with friends, once I visited their area, the desire to go back to their island is basically non-existent. This, of course, isn't a problem with the game, but here's a problem unrelated to me. You can't kick out one person during an online multiplayer session. You have to kick everyone out simultaneously. So if one person is being unpleasant, you can't just snipe them out. And if someone is arriving on the island, everyone has to sit down and wait as the newcomer's arriving animation plays out. I'm sure even diehard Animal Crossing fans are aware of these issues. Even my server said that the online features in these games have always been lackluster. I wonder if there are Animal Crossing purists, people who want primitive design to persist because streamlining is a boogeyman to them. And it can be in some cases, but for the most part, we should try it out anyway, because despite the sheen of New Horizons on Nintendo's latest console, some aspects about it feel kinda outdated. Like, why isn't there a quick organize button for my inventory? On a spectrum of item management, I'm not expecting Monster Hunter World levels of customization. But the fact there's no sort button on Animal Crossing is kinda baffling, especially in a series all about putting things in and out of your pocket, which goes hand in hand with the inability to store multiple things from your pockets into your homes. Also, why can I only buy one item at a time from the ABD? After seeing my sister spend her Nook miles on several Bell tickets, Seeing a convenient item being purchased in an inconvenient way sums up a lot of my feelings on this game. It's currently Bunny Day, and I hate it, so I want to talk about something else. I've been thinking about a progression system in this game that would appeal to me. Going from island to island and seeing that they're basically the same thing with a different coat of paint, I wish that these islands were a bit more mechanically diverse. Something that'd make them a bit more different from my island to your island. So here's my pitch. Specialty shops. Let's be honest, not everyone will be equally as excited about doing every task. I, for one, enjoy digging up fossils. And with the Nook Miles present, not only does the next milestone unlock more miles, but tools as well. Stuff like better or cheaper equipment, or a device that'll help me find more fossils invisible to the naked eye, and eventually an NPC that sets up a shop dedicated to these services when you progress far enough. These features either make it easier, quicker, or more fun than the usual method. And with those items and services present in my shop, those who visit my island who don't have an interest in finding fossils will have an easier time getting started if they bought those utilities in my island shop. And vice versa when I visit somebody else's shop. So visiting my friend's island would allow me to skip the early tedium of unlocking the cool stuff and use the services that Flick has in his own store, further enhancing online play or the islands of two players on the same Switch. These islands with specialty shops would then bring a bit more diversity into the game, showcasing what the player likes to do beyond what's presented in the museum, thus making a player's island both mechanically and aesthetically different. Anyway, here's what I did today. I bought 100 turnips, I decorated my house, and I sold all my eggs out of spite. A couple of days ago, a campsite was set to attract new villagers. The first one to come by was some French hamster. I wish death upon him. Anyway, let's talk positives. We set up a ramp, and though my sister paid it in full all by herself, she didn't have to do that. Island residents can help out and donate towards the final goal. This is great! Finally, a way for me to help out on the island. Imagine how great it would have been if I could do something similar to this in the early days. With the ramp fully paid, I just spent all my money on getting a new room for my house. Here's another positive. I like that scorpions and bees are a thing. They add a bit of danger, which is fun in a game with non-existent threats. Though the fact trees block the view of a potential scorpion I was trying to get the other night was kinda rubbish. There should be an option to see a silhouette or an outline of myself and other things like bugs, or even stuff like fruits and materials that are hidden underneath a cluster of trees. This would be pretty helpful, you know? I've realized I've gotten to the point where I've gotten enough stuff to really start playing around with the arrangement of them. That sudden realization was a pretty great feeling. When you get into the groove of customizing and moving things around, it gets very zen and enjoyable. What's also neat is that Isabel can tell me the island's evaluation, so with her advice, I got to work to improve the island's rating, pulling out weeds, placing fences, inviting a new villager, and so on. To see if I could rig the system, I just got all my furniture from my storage and put it out on the beach beside me. Hopefully this works. Oh, I even sent out money to my sister so she can lay down more land to sell. It was, dare I say, enjoyable. Boomer even sent me a present. What a guy. Few more issues to report, might just be me, but the game tends to lag from time to time. Load times in the beginning are kinda bothersome, and why can't I view the 3D models of my recipes on my phone? It's possible on a workbench, but why not on my phone? Can I have an item degradation bar on my tools as well? Why does item degradation exist in this game anyway? It makes sense in survival games because it exercises caution and resource management in a dangerous, harmful environment. But Animal Crossing is harmless by nature. It just seems like needless busywork. But overall, I had a good time. I tried to see if anything happened at 12 AM. Unfortunately, nothing special happened. I took a trip down to the Animal Crossing subreddit for the first time, and it's pretty impressive what other people are able to do. Good to know a lot of people hate the eggs as much as I do. What instantly came to mind after looking at everyone's island was how expensive it must have been, which means I have to invest in the stock market. I already bought myself some turnips, hoping to cash that in at some point. I won't be recording myself playing beyond these 30 days, but I'll let you know if I win big at some point. Back to the game. The island rating is now 2 thanks to ketchup moving in. With another plot of land down and inviting a new octopus guy, it's then just a matter of putting more stuff around the island according to Isabel. Hopefully the new guy is all that it takes to get the rating up to a 3. Who knew that helping out in the progress of the island is actually a fun time? If only more stuff like this were present in the early game. With the recent addition of Octavian, the island has reached 3 stars. I just did the usual today as all I'm really waiting for is the island customization and the Able Sister shop opening. With that said, I want to talk about the function of villagers. Their presence to me holds as much significance as glorified furniture that walks and talks, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I like Boomer quite a lot. It just sucks that I can't really do anything with him besides the occasional chat and gifting things to one another. I'm not asking for full-blown social links, of course, just small stuff. Something simple like minigames, such as playing hide-and-seek, or seeing who can catch the most bugs or fish. The only one I've ever stumbled upon was delivering back a lost item, so maybe I am just missing out on some potential interactions. But having a bit more variety would have been nice. Because as it stands, there's a hollow feeling within me that'll remain there if my interactions with these villagers remain awfully shallow, especially since that their personalities are replaceable, since their dialogue isn't specific to them. I woke up early today and was expecting the KK Slider concert to happen, but it didn't activate. All that happened today was Isabel told me a new awful frog moved in and the Able Sister shop is now open. Maybe the concert only happens for the owner. I honestly don't care much for KK, I just want to create paths and rivers. I gave the Able Sisters a visit and the variety is a breath of fresh air. A jacket kinda reminded me of the uniform from Dragon Pilot, so I did my best to Sone. I then watched my sister boot up her game and witnessed the KK Slider concert happen. After witnessing that, I booted up my own game and the concert finally activated on my end, which also garnered me the Island Planner app. All I gotta do is save up 30k bells, plan where I want to be situated, and I should be all good. I'm pretty eager to start working on this. Using the Island Designer is the most engaged I've been with the game so far. Stuff like having to clear out my land and shape my area in preparation for the move has got me excited. And off screen, I'm actually grinding for miles so I can get that waterscaping tool. Wanting to get Nook miles for tickets to find villagers was the only time I remember actively wanting to get miles. Who knew the feature I was most interested in, and the one that hasn't been present in prior games, actually shifted my perspective on this series that I previously didn't care for. Wanting to play more after my initial hour was practically non-existent up until this point. I'm finally enjoying this game beyond mild amusement, and this honestly should have happened sooner. So I've been playing more often off-screen, and I can definitely say that the Island Designer app is the best thing about this game. In comparison, everything else was as bland as old white bread. 3 weeks. It took me 3 weeks to actually play more of this game and not feel like a chore. From the excitement of what the Able Sisters have in store to the eager planning of how I can shape the land to my own liking. During this entire time, this is the type of feeling I wanted out of this game. Honestly, who cares about Tom Nook's loan at this point? I just want to get enough material so I can finish off my fencing. Maybe craft a few new items and see how they look, or maybe move things around a bit since it might look better there. But I'll do that later. Right now, I just gotta dig up these fossils and hit these rocks knowing eggs don't pop out of them. So with this thought process going through my head, I feel like I finally understand why people like Animal Crossing. Or at the very least, this part of it anyway. Because the road to get to this point felt painfully shallow and needlessly stretched out. Anyway, here's what I got planned for my area. Up top is just a bunch of foreign fruit for sale, and in the middle is my house. And at the bottom will be whatever springs to mind. I really like this rocky stone and steel aesthetic, and it'll probably look nice with accents of red once I plant some roses down. And with a little bit of cross-pollination, I bet the black roses will make the red pop a lot more. Also, I bought 900 turnips. Let's hope this final week can win me something big. Construction continues. I actually almost forgot to write my daily thoughts because I was simply enjoying the routine now. I just like sculpting the place, especially when I'm not recording footage, since I don't have to worry about my hard drive being clogged up with it. But hopefully you can see what's going on. I also like how slow it takes to terraform and place things around your island. While it's not as convenient as decorating the interior of your home, completing your intended task feels like accomplishing a puzzle. Again, restraint breeds creativity, and this stage of the game has a good balance of restriction and utilities to play around with. So yeah, I'm enjoying my time. It's good to know that these last few days won't be complete misery. I'm actually eager to show you guys what I've been working on, which feels kinda weird, especially with how loathsome I've felt about the first dozen hours of this game. If I had stuck around for less than 3 weeks, I would have thought that this game was just not for me. And to an extent, it still isn't. The only thing that really absorbed me into this game was the island designer, since everything else felt pretty lukewarm to me. If New Horizons were anything like the previous entries, I assume I'd feel like I'd be wasting my time. Anyway, here are some other thoughts. I find it curious that I have to go into my phone menu, then hit the Island Designer app. Can't you just assign activating the app on the plus button anyway? And when I want to hop out of it, just have it as an option right beside the terraforming tools. This is really just a nitpick, but hey, it's interesting to see that the trend of inconvenient UI still continues. I nearly forgot to record my session today, since I just picked up the game and just wanted to have a good time with it. I only realized this when I was figuring out the right outfit to present to the third Able sister. This should say a lot about my current opinion on the game. Despite the rocky start, I can see myself enjoying the rest of my time with New Horizons if I do continue playing it beyond these 30 days. Anyway, here's the new stuff besides the usual routine. I cashed in my turnips at 156 bells, which I assume is the average pricing. A profit of about 50 bells per turnip, getting myself an overall balance of 200k bells. I'll either spend it on the house or the bridge. Also, there's a new update coming soon, and the addition of shrubs has my mind racing. A new item that could drastically change the entire island's dynamic. These updates keeping this game new and fresh makes the life of this game virtually eternal till the next installment. Makes me wonder about those people who spend several hours a day trying to make the perfect island, only for an update to drop to encourage an entire remodel. Anyway, I'm eager to get some shrubs on my hands. The game has updated, but the sloth hasn't come around. I said to my sister that I'll pay half of the bridge as long as we get an incline at my place next. So with that out of the way, I've been pondering about the game suggestions I've been sprinkling around this video. I wonder if these features detract from the intended experience of Animal Crossing. If true, I may just be asking for an entirely different game, especially given how much I'm ignoring quite a few aspects of New Horizons. Maybe something like Roller Coaster Tycoon meets Animal Crossing. I've never played Happy Home Designers, but I assume it'd be something like that but on a larger scale. I have no idea how that would work exactly, but just a thought, you know? We're nearing the end of my 30-day diary, so let's continue on. As I'm inching closer into day 30, I begin to question my commitment with this game. It's fun, but it's unfortunate that my progress is stuck on somebody else's island. If there was somehow a feature to allow me to move to my own island and still have my progress intact, I think that'd be neat. But since something like convenient UI is a bit lacking in the game, I highly doubt anything like this would ever even happen. Also, it's a new day with the new update, which means access to shrubs and that sketchy fox character. I ended up finding red when I wasn't recording, so hopefully that leads into something at some point. Animal Crossing has really mastered on keeping me hooked with anticipation. The difference between now and a few weeks back is that the anticipation isn't the only thing pulling me in. There is a lot to do, and my eagerness to pursue these tasks are genuine and cathartic. May tomorrow continue these good vibes. The second to last day. I haven't been doing custom patterns for my tiles or furniture, not because I don't like the look. I quite like the creativity that comes out of this, because if I dive into this, the amount of choices is going to overwhelm me, so I've been restraining myself from using it. Because if I take off this self-imposed rule, my hour playing this game per day is going to be much longer, which really speaks to how fun it is to customize the island. I've seen players make roads, different stone paths, and other wacky things to match their aesthetic. I really admire people's creativity and the freedom this game offers. I also want to mention, I really adore the interactions from the Able sisters, specifically Sable. Seeing her open up by interacting with her every day garnered a lot more satisfaction for me than any of the other villagers. The game is a lot more concerned with quantity over quality in terms of villagers, and seeing this hint of development from the Able sisters greatly appeals to me, and I'm craving for more. As much as I like Boomer, seeing him repeat his lines over the past 30 days with no progression makes me not want to talk to him anymore. If there was an option to talk to Tom Nook or Isabel and ask them how everything was, and it unfolded into a simple narrative arc like Sable, I would really adore that. Give me proper characters any day instead of generic shells that possess one of 8 personalities. I've made it to the final day. I spent over 250,000 bells on turnips, and hopefully I get my first big return sometime next week. That's it. Nothing special to report on my final day of recording. So, let me skip to something a bit more interesting. Over the course of this entire thing, I've clocked in around 40 hours, but I've played beyond this. Writing, drawing, and editing takes time, which means I've got to play more of the game between the initial 30 days and the release of this video. So, with that said, let me show you what the island looks like now. After my time with New Horizons, what have I gained from this experience? The game has a lot going on, but if you're like me and are laser focused on the Island Designer app, you're gonna have to wait quite a while till you start enjoying the game. And no amount of collecting and talking to villagers made the time between those 2 points feel any less asinine and drawn out. And I understand that the game is trying to go on a slow and steady pace. But here is where I take issue. The lack of tools and creative freedom in the early game is extremely dull. And relatively speaking, since this is a game that's meant to be played for months and even years, the early game for me was 21 days, which is kind of shocking. During that time, I was bored senseless. Those days were devoid of any meaningful intrinsic or extrinsic rewards. Absolutely nothing satisfied me. The only thing bringing me back was the idea of tomorrow, which alone can't support the game. If more activities like the Mayday Maze were present early on, I'd be less bitter about it. But from my first month of playing it, I couldn't enjoy the game when it trickles down minor amounts of dopamine when the pace goes slower than a sloth going up a hill without limbs. And this enjoyment of mine is greatly hindered by my inability to do things as a resident rather than an owner in the early weeks. Honestly, Nintendo's persistence and stupid decisions still confuses me. But despite my grievances, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because once you suffer through the boredom, New Horizons achieves quite highly its intended experience of being a relaxing time, if you're willing to ignore its lackluster inventory management. Because let's be honest, in a game where a significant amount of time is dedicated on navigating and managing inventory, why is menu convenience barely present? When isolated, these are small issues on their own, but they accumulate into something bigger, and a large part of my frustrations are amplified because of these issues, since at the start of the game, there's nothing to observe beyond these aspects. And this could be an intentional design decision, but there's a difference between enjoyable inconvenience and monotony. I want to spend my time decorating and rearranging the island, not button mash when I'm at the crafting table. However, once I got used to the game's primitive design, I started enjoying myself. When I wasn't impeded by inconvenience and I finally unlocked terraforming, reshaping the island felt enjoyable, and it gave me agency to finally start engaging in this game. Despite the shallow interactions from most of the villagers, the Able Sisters gave me something that these interchangeable characters couldn't. The new updates offer an extra dash of variety, as your mind runs wild trying to find ways to implement these new items into your island. Then there's the joy of scoring big with turnips, paying off your home loan, rearranging the furniture, getting that new incline, and finally getting that perfect item to complete that corner of the island, which is then all tied together with the excitement of what tomorrow may bring. When I reached this moment, everything clicked. And to put it simply, I actually enjoyed my experience with Animal Crossing. Despite my disinterest in quite a number of features, the decorating is where the game shines the most. And with this aspect alone, I found myself incredibly engrossed in the experience. While my excitement will never reach the die-hard heights of veteran fans, the intrinsic reward of decorating the island had a larger effect on me than I thought it would. So much so that I'm tempted to get a Switch myself and start my own island. Though that might just be Stockholm Syndrome plaguing me. But just to clarify, I won't, because Nintendo probably wanted this to happen. Now, do I find this game amazing? No. A game that requires 20 hours of your time to get to the good part, I think would have a few flaws. But maybe I just don't get it. At least New Horizons is good enough to change my feelings on the franchise. And I applaud the latest installment for doing so. If the game fixed its handful of flaws, I can see this game being one of my favorites. But for now, I think it's pretty good, and maybe even great. Just take note of the large asterisk right beside it.